Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast on the prophecies in Revelation that I believe are about to be fulfilled. I am your host, Marty Luttrell. My study of the Bible and the prophecies therein has led me to believe we are on the verge of extreme and momentous events that God has foretold us in His Word. There are major changes soon to take place to this earth, and I believe people everywhere need to know these things. Why? Because understanding God, His will, and His plans teaches us how we need to be ready, how to respond when these events take place, and how we should live sober and godly lives as we look for these events to begin. In the last study we had, we looked at some verses in Revelation 8, the casting down of the censer and the first four trumpets. I believe the Bible reveals the censer will be cast down soon, bringing corporate atonement for this earth to a close. What is corporate atonement? Well, God takes care of this planet every day, not allowing disasters to become totally out of control or anything like that as we hurtle through space. But that is about to change on a corporate level. That means the planet is going to suffer some serious catastrophic events, unlike anything we've seen before since the flood took place in Noah's day. Today, I'm going to talk about another event from Revelation that takes place just before the censer is cast down. That is the opening of the fourth seal. Jesus will open the fourth seal on the book of life in the near future. And when He opens this seal, it will reveal His authority over the nations of man. The leaders of this earth, in their arrogance and pride, don't consider their accountability to Jesus, and that this world belongs to Him, not to them. This planet, Jesus created this planet. And He has determined when the end will be and the events that are going to take place. And when He opens that fourth seal on the book of life, it's going to reveal His authority over the nations of men. Let's look at what the fourth seal says in Revelation chapter 6, 7, and 8. It says, "When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, 'Come.' I looked, and before me there was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth, to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth." They were given power over a fourth. That means when this seal is opened, a fourth of the earth, of the inhabitants of this earth, will be killed. That's a huge, momentous, and terrible event. That the fact is there's 8 billion people on the planet. A fourth of those would be 2 billion. There's not been an event like that take place since the flood happened, where that many people died. You can look at history, nothing like that has ever happened since the time of Noah. What is the meaning of this seal? Well, the Old Testament can helps us understand a lot about the prophecies in Revelation because there's parallel language there. In the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel was a prophet to the nation of Israel at a time when Israel had become quite wicked. And so God was going to send destruction against the nation of Israel when He sent Babylon up against Israel. And God tells Ezekiel in Ezekiel 14, verses 12 to 23, "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, if a country sins against me by being unfaithful, and I stretch out my hand against it to cut off its food supply and send famine upon it and kill its people and their animals, even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they could save only themselves by their righteousness, declares the sovereign Lord. Or if I send wild beasts through that country, and they leave it childless, and it becomes desolate, so that no one can pass through it because of the beasts, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, even if these 3 men were in it, they could not save their own sons or daughters. They alone would be saved, but the land would be desolate. Or if I bring a sword against that country and say, let the sword pass throughout the land, and I kill its people and their animals, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, even if these 3 men were in it, they could not save their own sons or daughters. They alone would be saved. Or if I send a plague into that land and pour out my wrath on it through bloodshed, killing its people and their animals, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, even if Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, they could save neither son nor daughter. They would save only themselves by their righteousness. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. How much worse will it be when I send against Jerusalem my 4 dreadful judgments? Sword, famine, wild beasts, and plague. We just read about those in the 4th seal. To kill its men and their animals. Yet there will be some survivors, sons and daughters, who will be brought out of it. They will come to you, and when you see their conduct and their actions, you will be consoled regarding the disaster I have brought on Jerusalem. Every disaster I have brought on it. You will be consoled when you see their conduct and their actions, for you will know that I have done nothing in it without cause, declares the sovereign Lord. So those 4 judgments God brought against Jerusalem are also going to be brought against this earth when Jesus opens the 4th seal. What do we need to do today? We need to understand God's word. We need to get on our knees and ask Jesus to come into our hearts, to deliver us from the power of sin in our lives. Help us to put away all idols, everything that comes before Christ. In 2 Peter 3:11 through 13, Peter says, since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. But in keeping with this promise, we are looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells. I want to be there. I hope you do too. Have a great day. We'll talk again soon.